कि समस्याओं का समाधान शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से ही होना चाहिए।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Kazan. It's a city in southwestern Russia, right on the banks of the Volga River. He's there to attend the 16th BRICS summit. It's probably their most important meeting in years because this isn't the old BRICS. It's a bigger, new-look one. But all that's slated for tomorrow. Today was all about the bilaterals. Prime Minister Modi's first meeting was with the host himself, President Vladimir Putin. After that, he met Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian. Their first meeting since he took charge in July. Also right in the middle of a standoff with Israel. Yet all the focus was on the first meeting, the one with Putin. The two leaders had met in early July too. That's when Modi visited Moscow for a bilateral summit. You may remember that controversy. As always, Prime Minister Modi embraced Putin when they met, but the hug did not go down well with the US and Ukraine. Zelensky said that he was disappointed by it. So would Prime Minister Modi change his approach this time? Well, see it for yourself. So no change in gestures. Prime Minister Modi did give his characteristic hug to Putin. In many ways, that sums up India's policy. The West can criticize all it wants, Ukraine can complain all it wants, but India will not abandon its friendship with Russia. Of course, that commitment has limits. For example, India does not support Russia's war in Ukraine. It has repeatedly called for talks. Prime Minister Modi stuck to that position today. He asked Ukraine and Russia to talk things out, even offered to mediate.
एक्सेलेंसी, रूस और यूक्रेन के बीच चल रहे संघर्ष के विषय पर हम लगातार संपर्क में रहे हैं। जैसा मैंने पहले भी कहा है, हमारा मानना है कि समस्याओं का समाधान शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से ही होना चाहिए। शांति और स्थिरता की जल्द से जल्द बहाली का हम पूरी तरह समर्थन करते हैं। हमारे सभी प्रयास मानवता को प्रमुखता देते हैं। आने वाले समय में भी भारत हर संभव सहयोग देने के लिए तैयार है।
So Prime Minister Modi did not sidestep the war. He called for dialogue and peace, which brings us to Putin. India's attendance is a big deal for him. You see, the West is running a campaign to isolate Putin, to make him a pariah. They have tried to recruit India for this campaign, even invited Modi to their exclusive party, the G7. Yet, Prime Minister Modi has flown over to Kazan. It shows that Putin still has friends that he can count on, powerful friends like India. His remarks today reflected that. Putin said that India and Russia share a special relationship. He also cracked a joke about his chemistry with Modi.
Russian-Indian relations are characterized by a special privileged strategic partnership and continue to develop actively. Our foreign ministers are in constant contact. Trade turnover is in good condition. Our relations are so good. I thought you understand everything without translation.
Overall, most boxes were ticked. Optics check, chemistry check, and criticism of war check. So at first glance, it's a healthy relationship. But underneath, it's going through a churn. Look at the timeline leading up to this visit. In July, Prime Minister Modi traveled to Moscow, his first trip since the Ukraine war broke out. The next month in August, he visited Kiev. He expressed solidarity with Zelensky. Then in September, he traveled to the US, met Joe Biden at his house in Wilmington. And in October, he is back in Russia. We know that India balances its relations well, but the last 3 months have been a master class, a very difficult and sensitive tightrope walk. In this time, India has projected itself as a peacemaker, even offered to mediate between both sides. But all this war chatter is hiding something else. The trajectory of India-Russia ties. Where is it going? Historically, weapons have been a big part of this relationship. Whether it's fighter jets or guns or missiles, India bought most of its tech from Russia. But that's changing now. Let me show you some data. From 2009 to 2013, Russia made up 76% of India's arms imports. Now look at the last 5 years. Russia made up just 36%. So India is buying fewer weapons from Moscow. It has diversified its sources. Now France, the US and Israel are also selling weapons to India in large numbers. And while the weapons trade has reduced, oil trade has increased. Russia couldn't sell energy to the West, so they sold it to India at discounts. New Delhi is buying 1.9 million barrels per day from Russia. It makes up 40% of India's total supply, the Russian oil. Could this be the future of India-Russia ties, an energy partnership? Well, oil has been used to bind many bilateral relationships, so you cannot rule it out. Having said that, some questions still remain, like what happens after the war? Will India keep buying Russian oil once the discounts disappear, or will Russia resume selling to the West? My point is, India and Russia must chart out a long-term plan, one that is beyond oil and weapons. And they're moving in that direction. Last year, Russia had around $8 billion stuck in India. They could not take this money abroad, nor could they import much from India. But now that amount has halved. Reports say only about $3 to $3.5 billion remain. What happened to the rest then? Russia used it to buy Indian securities and defense products, and it's a good start. You see, political chemistry was never a problem in this relationship. New Delhi and Moscow can read each other well. The problem is keeping the relationship lucrative, especially with China lurking around. Putin and Xi Jinping have declared a no-limits partnership. Their trade is worth $240 billion. Around 90% of that is done via local currencies, not the US dollar. In comparison, India-Russia trade is just $65 billion. And if you remove oil, it's even less. So India needs to China-proof its relationship with Russia. Whether it's diversifying trade or expanding investments or deepening strategic cooperation, because you cannot sustain a relationship on nostalgia alone. You need concrete gains on both sides.
Firstpost decodes the U.S. election, explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on Firstpost.